In the state of Oregon, it's a mathematical certainty that there has to be some county that is the most transparent and the most honest, and some county of all the counties here that's the least transparent and the most corrupt. Salem says that Josephine County is number one in least transparency and most corruption. So, woohoo, we're number one. Uh,
Do they have a chart or something for that?
Oh, yeah, it's an inverted bell chart, I think, one of those. Right, and they simply consider that. And now, again, they're not talking about the guy that's pumping gas down at the local gas station. They are obviously talking about our media, which could include us, and our politicians here. And if you have any questions about that, you could simply look at Herb Carter as an example. Okay, so what do we know for sure? Well, the county commissioners say, hey, don't worry about some of these things because we have oversight committees, or we have independent auditors that will come in and always find the problems. There's no corruption here, except they spent a little fortune on independent auditors that came in and looked at the books of the fair board of the county fairgrounds. Now, Herb Carter, this is just the provable things and the things that the commissioners have said. I don't know, I wasn't there, with a notepad and a gun or something, but according to them, when Herb Carter, he's the buddy with Gerard Fitzgerald, when Herb Carter was head of the fair board, according to the commissioners, see how careful I'm being in saying this? The fair was maintaining multiple bank accounts that the county didn't know anything about. Hello, auditors? Hello, we're spending a lot of money with you. How come you didn't tell us this? Auditors. And also, he was signing blank checks. Really? That's convenient. And according to them, he made a deal with Pepsi, which has really gone sour. I hate to even think of sour Pepsi. And they didn't know that he had done that. And so then he was not so ceremoniously taken out of the position of head of the fair board. Now, this is the same Herb Carter talking about corruption from the media side of it, that when we went to go cover their meetings, because they're open public meetings, he said, your mere presence here is a disruption of this meeting. Really, I wasn't saying anything, it just was a camera. I don't know if that made them very comfortable, but too bad, because they're a county board. And he decided to turn up the audio on a radio station so that we couldn't hear what they were saying, and then they'd get together and kind of whisper to each other. This is the same guy that was in charge of a board that when the commissioner liaison said, they said, okay, that's the end of the meeting, this meeting is over, that the commissioner liaison left, and I left too, and I thought, oh man, I forgot something, went back, and they had restarted the meeting with a quorum, making, I guess, decisions. Didn't they look shocked when I walked back in the door?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So for those who say, oh, you're being too tough, why everyone's doing the best job that they can. Yes, and we're number one now because of the best job that they can do. Well, so we brought you the story of this ridiculous thing that the commissioners just passed out in the Illinois Valley. Now, I love Roger Brandt. This is a really good community-spirited fellow. And out in Cave Junction, they have a little state park there, and they wanted economic development funds. Why don't you tell this part of the story? Go ahead, Mike. You can tell them. I'm doing all the
talking. Well, they just wanted economic development money to pay for the handicap access ramps that they wanted to put in, and so they basically had to come up with a phony story. I don't know why they have to do this. I don't think anybody cares. If we're going to take economic development money to do such and such, people probably would have gone, all right. But instead, they had to come up with a funny number of alleged jobs that were going to be created as a result of using the economic development money, and of course, hilarity ensued.
Well, they said that after the thing was done, after the wheelchair ramps were built, that permanent jobs would come out of that. Now just think about, okay, so they build these wheelchair ramps, and you have a local gas station. And imagine the amount of business that would need to be generated by fantastic wheelchair ramps. I mean, they could go up and over and around. There could be a water slide
Right.
wheelchair ramp. There'd be all these things. And what kind of business activity would have to just be rip-roaring through the Illinois
Well,
Valley?
hey, we don't have to guess about this because these are all fairly easy numbers. So I got out my pencil and did a little arithmetic here. Now they claim 150 to 200 jobs. Hey, I'm going to take them full on at their word, and I'm going to say 200 jobs. Well, 200 jobs. And they're 200 family wage jobs.
Permanent family wage jobs.
Permanent family wage jobs. So a family wage job, to me, that's 40 grand, because not only am I paying for myself, but I'm paying for my wife, and I got 2 kids too. The American dream, 2.2 kids and a white picket fence or something.
Yeah, right.
So that's 40 grand. So if you take 200 times 40 grand, that is $8 million. Okay? So $8 million. In order for people to be paid $8 million, in other words, if I own a gas station and all of a sudden there's so much more business that I need to add another person, you can bet that whatever I'm paying that guy, I'm making a lot more profit than that in order to justify paying that guy that amount. Because not only do I have to take in enough to pay him, but I have to take in enough to put a little bit of something in my pocket and justify the cost of taking on another employee. Well, so in short, if I'm taking in $8 million, if I need $8 million to pay all my new employees, I'm going to have to take in 25 million probably in order to pay that out. So, and this is every year, by the way. So I want to see that there is an incessant line. I mean, people are lining up for miles down the road to ride this ramp. And not only that, they're going to come in and they're going to buy themselves an Egg McMuffin and 10 gallons of gas and a pair of swimming flippers or something like that. I mean, this has to happen with every one of these people. It's ludicrous, the idea that somehow 200 family wage jobs are coming out of this, or even 100. I'd like to sit down there. No, I wouldn't, actually. I'd like someone else to sit down there with a video camera and get the video of all of these people lining up to ride on these ramps and then follow them around town to see all the money they're spending. They know no one's going to do that, and that is why they do it like this, because they know no one is going to check this out.
But the people who are trying to improve their community, here's the positive side. Keith X said recently, now people can come up to the podium at the weekly business session and say something positive. Okay, our positive contribution is stop lying to us.
Well,
okay, all right, so let's say something positive. What a wonderful project. It's a park. Okay, it's a park, and it's got trees, it's got grass, it's got, I'm sure, birds, and what a wonderful positive thing. Birds are chirping, kittens are playing in the sunlight. This is wonderful, except when it's raining. And
right.
so the people out there would like a nice park. And so at the meeting where they came in and this was approved by the county commissioners, I gave Roger Brandt $100 out of my pocket. Now, $100 for me is like $1,000 from the commissioners because I just make a tiny portion of what they make. But I'm happy to see wonderful things being done in the community. I'm not just trying to tear down every good project. Come on. But It's false. It's just false. Roger knows that I love him, and he put his arm around me. He says, I understand, Dale. Listen, it's false to say that this thing is going to generate 214 full-time, permanent, that's forever, generations, family wage jobs. This is ridiculous.
Yes, of course, it's completely goofy. And think of it. Okay, let's say just because it's a fun fantasy that it did create 214 family wage jobs. The occupancy at this park here and the use of it is basically seasonal. So even if it did do that in the peak of summer, it's not going to do that in the middle of winter. And the idea, I mean, it's just, there really ought to be a prerequisite. If you're going to be in government, you should at least have some private sector experience that would make you understand how stupid that is. But
I don't mind so much if the county commissioners, I would prefer that it comes from the pockets of people, of regular folks, but if the county commissioners insist on taking part of our general funds from the county government, I know there's people that object to this, I personally don't get a lot of heartburn from this, and say, you know, it'd be nice to have nice things in our community, and although we can't afford police patrols, let's please have a pleasant park, and then maybe that will convince all the vagrants who actually live there to move out, because they will say, this is so nice with all these wheelchair ramps, let me move myself to another place.
Yeah, no, really what you're going to have is all the handicapped vagrants are going to live there now.
Yes, and we'll attract handicapped vagrants from all over the country. What's the matter with you, Mike?
Right. And no, hey, listen, Nancy Pelosi and I think Dianne Feinstein have said that, you know, food stamps, they pay back into the community like 4 to 1. So really, if we could truck the people there, and they could all live there and ride up and down the ramps, and then they could spend all their food stamp money there in Cape Junction, it'd be an economic boom.
We are missing a huge opportunity. We're on the I-5 corridor. Got all this drug money coming through. Not only could we combine the drug money together with some experiences that would enhance the fun of the drugs, but think of all the illegal immigrants from Mexico, many of them in wheelchairs, or we could arrange to have them end up in wheelchairs after we're done with them, and they would come across the border and they could settle as illegal vagrants in the park. And now where do the full-time jobs come from?
No, it's silly. It's just plain.
But the
silly.
commissioners bought into it and were belligerent about it. About, well, no, we must have this kind of thing. Don't you realize how much money our parks generate? You don't even realize. You come to all these meetings and you don't realize how much money our parks generate. You know.
Oh yeah.
This is why, because of all the parks that we have here, and as Cheryl Walker pointed out, they have access to the river. Why, this must then mean, because of that access to the river, that we're swimming in money. Because look at all the parks.
Right.
The commissioners should do nothing in economic development other than invest in wheelchair ramps for every dang park, because then we're going to generate, every time we build wheelchair ramps at parks, and we've got a number of parks here, we're going to generate another 214 full-time family wage jobs. By the time we're done, we'll have 2,000 more jobs.
Yeah, there'll be our unemployment rate will be about 3 or 4% here. You know, I think it's fantastic. So Cheryl was on CamED this morning, and she talked about how they are going to be doing a lot of these improvements on Whitehorse Park. That's their next economic development target.
Well, she didn't actually say they were going to build wheelchair ramps. She's talking about the other kind of ramps, boat ramps. You know,
oh, it's all the same.
Ramp. Yeah, I mean, really. Yeah, but the reason that she came on there, this is very interesting. So here's what I've heard behind the scenes. We got a lot of people to talk to us behind the scenes. It's a little bit like the Deacons family. He's the first of half a dozen families that have had a run-in with a drunken county commissioner at a bar. He's the first one that stepped forward. Now, we hear this kind of stuff from all kinds of sources, and my understanding is, actually, I went on KMED first on the Bill Meyer show. It runs from 6 to 9 a.m. I wasn't there for 3 hours. And as a result of a bet, see, Bill Meyer lives in Jackson County. He couldn't believe that our county commissioners would use this as an excuse and give any amount of money over to these guys from economic development funds to develop 214 full-time family wage jobs. So he bet me a burger that it can't possibly be true. And boy,
no,
I took that bet.
Yeah, and I think he thought you were joking to begin with. Yeah, you want a burger. And by the way, those are really good too, by the way.
Well, I actually would prefer a Carl's Jr. burger, but I will tell you, their $6 burger is like this big. It's amazing. Oh, I mean, this big.
No, I know, but if you haven't had one of these burgers, you know, his sponsor over there, they're really, really good.
Oh, okay, all right. So
just so you know.
Well, I understand they come from papaya sauce or some other goofy thing. So I had a rutabaga juice, whatever. Okay, so I'll be delighted. It's free. Okay, so he bet me on Monday when I went in to go see him, when we were on the air, he bet me this can't possibly happen. I've never heard him bet somebody before. They just find Josephine County to be hilarious and the county commissioners to be ridiculous.
Apparently.
They've invited the county commissioners many times, and they're not going to go out there. Are you kidding me? They would take them apart. And people would call in and say, well, this is ridiculous. Why would you do what's this about $100,000 overrun on the Dimmick Tower, but you don't want to tell anybody? I mean, you think we're harder than them. Oh, brother.
Well, Cheryl was on there today, and she was unapologetic, and she stuck right to her guns.
But she got nothing across on Bill Meyer.
She drank every bit of that Kool-Aid.
Wow. So, well,
right. No, of course. But
I was supposed to be on first, and then this lady, Rycke Brown, she wanted to go on just before me to kind of set the stage. Now, we've got a couple of well-wishers in our community. Rycke's part of county government. And an employee of the county is, who's this guy at the airport? Larry Graves. So many times when I've come on, Larry Graves has sent a hot email to Bill Meyer saying, well, he got it all wrong. It's not blue, it's green, or it's the tiniest little details. Not that everything is false, but that I say one thing and then Bill says, well, that's tax dollars. No, actually, the economic development funds come from money that's taken from the lottery, and then it turns around and comes to us. Okay, well, that's free money. No, it's supposed to be spent on economic development. I never said it was tax dollars, but Larry got all over Bill in an email. Oh, it's really not tax. Okay, all right. You know, is this really a distinction without a difference? How are we spending the money? So Rycke wanted to come on, and oh, by the way, you see this logo over here? This stands for Mike Says Nobody is Better. That's a C, but they've spelled it wrong. Okay, so so Rycke wanted to come on and explain why this was kind of a pretty smart idea. Now, we've got a little clip here that Mike's going to play for you from that show. Can you play that one, Mike?
Yes.
If the people in the Illinois Valley, the people who live right there, want to help improve that park and want to help take care of it, we're all in favor of that.
But the economic development aspect of it's blowing smoke, wouldn't you agree?
Not really, no. Every park in this county is good for our economy. Especially to the extent that we can improve them and take care of them.
But still, 200 jobs? That was the claim. 117 to 200
That's
jobs.
what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what claims they made.
Uh-huh.
If there is any economic good out of this,
So in other words, if we
that's
lie,
the economic development fund.
so in other words, if we lie or exaggerate, but we do it for a good purpose, then it's okay?
Hey, lawyers lie and exaggerate all the time, and they still win cases, and they do it legally.
Okay, Rycke, thanks for the call. It's an interesting take on it. All right, Dale.
Oh, brother.
All right, I know.
Nice. So, who is this? Okay, I've got another one here for you that's just, every once in a while we just got to have a little bit of fun, because we do have some people, I'm not saying this is Rycke Brown, that kind of fall into the loon category, okay? I'm not saying this is Rycke Brown, but take a listen to this. Now, I'm going to need to take off my headset. This is really high tech, and we're going to get there. Just, it's free. Just stop complaining about this. I don't want to hear the complaints from. And so I'm going to take off my headset so you can hear this one. This is Rycke Brown, and we're not just picking on Rycke. This is Carl Wilson. You just elected him as your new state representative, right? And Simon Hare. And they're talking about these people at these weekly business sessions. This is from a weekly business session. She's wearing a bandana across her face. And they keep bringing up things, these stupid things about like open public meeting laws and being transparent, and as he puts it, we're the most transparent county in the, but don't bring it up, don't say anything about it. So here's what they had to say about free speech. I'm going to take this off so you can hear it. Here we go. It's coming.
I can appreciate people voting against the law enforcement levy because they don't have the money to do it. I can appreciate that. I can understand that. But as far as I'm concerned, there are just some people here who will never be satisfied no matter what happens. And that's the group of people that I do not sympathize with, I don't care to be a part of, and I don't care to share the community with. Let's get to our next call. And hi, you're on KHO, and good morning.
Well, good morning. This is Rycke.
Hi, Rycke.
I was appalled at the actions of Dale Matthews, Danny Casanelli, and Mark Seligman at the last commissioners' meeting. In going there and crowing their victory to the commissioners, attacking the commissioners, and speaking directly to the public and not to the commissioners, who they are supposed to be there to speak to. They're just using the commissioner meeting as a forum to attack the commissioners. I think you should stop it, just like you did today. Just tell them, we don't care what you think anymore, and we aren't going to talk to you, and we aren't going to call on you in the meeting.
That's absolutely possible. There is no statute that requires people from having the opportunity to speak, because that is one form of addressing the board. There are 3 or 4 others: email, telephone calls, actual written mail, and people exercise all 3 of those on a daily basis in communicating with the board. There is no mandate that we entertain them to have 3 minutes before the board, and I would like to see support to limit their ability to access us in that capacity, that way.
Wow.
That's Simon Hare.
Yeah, the evil trifecta of Josephine County: Rycke Brown, Carl Wilson, and Simon Hare.
Oh, no, the evil trifecta are the people who are pointing out problems with cost overruns. Why don't you get with the program? I mean, everybody, including Jim Moore of the Daily Courier, they didn't write anything about cost overruns. They wrote a front-page article about people who are going to miss the pleasant memories, I'm not making this up, of the old hospital. I have pleasant memories of a hospital. Well, I lost my leg there. Yeah?
I think really the most telling part about that, and probably not everybody has heard that, is Simon Hare saying, "Hey, I would like to limit their access to us." I mean, that he would never say that. I don't think, again, in a weekly business session, when he knew your camera was sitting right there or something, because he knows that would be on YouTube by the end of the day.
Well, this one is called Rycke Brown uses free speech to denounce free speech for others, and this is
very accurate.
This is the same meeting where the famous meeting, the infamous meeting, where Carl Wilson and Simon Hare were agreeing that the people who bring up the fact that they break the law are gnats, just simply gnats in the room that keep talking about open public meeting law. I mean, I took an oath of office. I promised I would obey the law, but as legal counsel has pointed out, there's nobody forcing us to obey the law, so why would we? So stop bringing this up, you gnats in the room. That's who you voted for.
Mm.
Most of the not most of the population, but at least a majority to beat Mark Gatlin, who would have been so much worse. I mean, here's a guy I pointed out at one of the meetings because they were talking about doing another survey of the vehicles under Rob Brandis in Public Works. And I said, remember the last time that we went out there that there was a list of cars to take a look at, and before we arrived with the commissioner and with the mechanic and with me with the camera, Rob Brandis and company, I don't know who did the exact, were going around changing the plates on the vehicles. And Rob Brandis came up to me afterwards and said, you ever repeat that again? I'm repeating it again, Rob, because we have it on tape. They were changing. Why would they be changing it? And so we were looking at it. This doesn't look like a light blue Ford pickup. No, we've changed the plates. And so the point was, Mark Gatlin got up right after me. Now remember, Mark has not seen this video. Mark has not read the reviews. Mark has not talked with the commissioners about the official report. This is a lie and these kinds of remarks. Hey, wait a minute. How would you know if it's a lie or not? Why are you getting up and saying this is crazy? You don't have any idea because you're not watching BadCounty.com, buddy.
That's transparency.
There's our I got some transparency right here for you. Okay, so what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to play parts. Cheryl Walker, she's so confident in herself. She's so sure that she came on Bill Meyer's show and tried to sell this. And where did she hear about it? I think what happened, and I've been told this, well, I don't know. I don't have two sources, so it's only conjecture. I think what happened is this guy out at the airport, this is Larry Graves, maybe he called her because he listens to the show. She doesn't listen to the show. She doesn't know KMED exists. And said, you better get up. So this wasn't pre-planned. She just called them and said, well, okay, come on, because she never would come on the show before. None of the commissioners have been there. She comes on and she's talking about the happiness. You'll see, this is hilarious. Keep in mind now, Larry Graves, who's also threatened me and other people. Larry Graves is the guy that when Dan Lindstadt came in and said, you know, I think my contract is I'm paying for footage that I'm not getting. Why am I paying for, you know, the equivalent of a two-bedroom apartment when I have a one-bedroom? These aren't bedrooms, but they're hangars. Why am I paying all this extra money? So Larry gets instantly angry. Remember, this is a county employee. Now, why do I know this is true? Because I've heard the tape. Right? And Larry says, you've been trying to F me, and you're F'ing this, and F'ing that, and F you, and F this, and F it. Hey, wait a minute. And the other guy, this is Dan Lindstedt, is a sweetheart. No, listen, I just think I'm paying too much money. F this and F that. So I got up at one of the meetings, and I said, the weekly business session where Rycke is here wearing a bandana across her face, and this one's called Beat Your Dog with a Chicken. You're going to love this because she thinks that you ought to do that. Okay, so if the dog bites the chicken, or so, you beat that dog with the chicken, right? And so the bones and stuff, and the dog is bleeding or whatever. Anyway, that's a lovely one. You can watch Beat Your Dog with a Chicken, the Rycke Brown story. So this guy's saying,
it's a classic, by the way.
It really is. So F this and F you and F the, you know, and so the guy said, what do you think I should do? I said, well, listen, you do what you want to do, but I think you should object to the commissioners about being treated this way. I mean, this is a county employee, and his direct liaison is Cheryl Walker. So why don't you tell Cheryl Walker about this? Write her a letter, say, this isn't the right thing. I mean, even if I'm wrong, which he didn't think that he was, why would I be treated this way? So I get up at the weekly business session and I say, and he said, F this and F that, and Keith X stops me. Well, you shouldn't be saying such words. And I said, what? F? Yeah, that's not right. I said, listen, what do you think is worse? Me saying F this, F that, or your employee using the full word?
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, this is just par for the course. This is how they behave, and I'm not shocked anymore. I'm not shocked, and I'm sad that I'm not shocked.
I'm sad that you're not shocked too. Goodbye, everybody.